Hello, my name is Sandy Adomaitis, the social media director for the Page International Screenwriting Awards, and your host for the Writers Hangout, a podcast that celebrates the many stages of writing, from inspiration to the first draft, revising, getting a project made, and everything in between. We'll talk to the best and the brightest in the entertainment industry and create a space where you can hang out, learn from the pros, and have fun. Welcome. So glad you're here. We're at your favorite table today by the bakery display case. The coconut cake looks delicious. Joining us today, we have the talented screenwriter, Zack Stentz. Zack co-wrote the blockbuster movies Thor and X-Men First Class. Some of the TV series Zack has written for are Fringe, Terminator, The Sarah Connor Chronicles, and The Flash. His latest endeavor is the animated Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, which he created and can be found on Netflix. Let's start the show. Zack, welcome to the Writers Hangout. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Did you get to go hiking with your dogs over this weekend?
I did get to go hiking with my dogs over the weekend. And, as much as I'm wary about how we're going to have a terrible wildfire season if we don't get some rain soon, I can't lie. The beautiful weather has been wonderful to hike in.
It has been gorgeous lately. I forget, what are your doggies' names?
I have 4 of them.
Four.
I have Stella, Polly, Midnight, and Shadow.
Shadow. For some reason, I always think of Stella. Is Stella one of the older dogs?
Stella was the first one that we got.
There you go. My first question for you. You started your writing career as a journalist, then came up in syndicated television, and you speak very highly of it. Most people know, but can you explain what syndicated TV is and then expand on why you feel it was beneficial to start your career this way?
I will take your audience back down memory lane to the 1990s and even into the 1980s, where you had shows like Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Hercules and Xena, and other shows like that. And they were what was called syndicated action hours, or just syndicated scripted hours. And how that worked was they would, the producers would get the money together and then they would sell the show to independent TV stations all over the country and all over the world and make a tremendous amount of money from that. That's how Baywatch actually started life as a network show. It was canceled by the network and then they revived it. They revived it as a syndicated action hour and made literally billions of dollars from it.
I did not know that.
The shows had the reputation for being kind of lowbrow and emphasizing action and spectacle over, sophisticated drama, because they had to be, they were shows that had to export all around the world. And one of the producers famously said, a witty joke might not translate, but pushing someone out of a window always does. It was big business for a while, but the budgets were they had 22 episode a season orders typically. So there were lots of episodes to write. To keep costs down, they generally had small writing staffs. And what that meant was that you got to write, even as a lowly staff writer, multiple episodes every season.
I see.
Now in the age of these streaming shows with like 8 episodes, that do like 8 episodes every 18 months and may have like 9-10 writers on staff, you have people who are, have good careers and are at producer level sometimes, and they've written 3 episodes of TV.
Right. And especially if that show is shooting somewhere other than where the writer's room is, you're not even getting on set experience.
You're not getting on set experience. You're not getting experience in the editing room. all of those things that create the next generation of showrunners. The bottom line is they gave you a lot of experience. And as you know, writing and producing TV is a muscle that you get, it gets stronger the more that you use it. Really, it was a really great school to learn the trade of TV writing, even if we weren't, winning awards for it.
Were you surprised that you got to be so hands-on, or you just thought that's the way it is in television? You wear many hats, even as a staff writer.
I just kind of thought that's the way it was.
That's the way, yeah.
This was also, there was no social media then. The internet was in a much more nascent stage at that point. So you didn't have writers talking shop to each other. I didn't know a lot of other TV writers. So I just thought like, oh yeah, you get to write 6 episodes a season and produce your own episodes. And that's what TV writing is like. And I was also very lucky in that our first showrunner, Robert Wolf, was very collaborative, and he was very generous towards and didn't really wasn't super hierarchical in the way that some other showrunners can be. So we really got to contribute a lot more than staff writers on a lot of other shows might be able to. So it was just it was a blessed experience in a lot of ways. It wasn't all wonderful, don't get me wrong, but in retrospect, it could have been so much worse.
Speaking of just staffing and starting out, your agent's assistant helped you jump from syndicated television to network. Can you tell me that story?
It was actually the opposite of that. It wasn't our agent's assistant, although at one point we did have an agent's assistant. It was James Middleton's assistant who really helped flag us and really helped, believed in our writing early and got us in with James Middleton, who very well, and who at that point was a studio executive, and he kind of got us work again when my former partner and I had been in a very low period in our careers. So and that same assistant ended up going to work for Paul Haas at the Endeavor Agency. And when we got staffed on Sarah Connor, he helped us jump ship from our small agency to a big one. So
yeah,
that was Jordan Surf, who's now a manager. I will give him a shout out for his help.
I never knew the name. Jordan is wonderful, and James Middleton, such a great guy. I just love those
James
stories
so much.
Yeah, I love those kind of stories. You never know where your break is going to come from.
Absolutely. And it's, you should be nice to the assistants because you should be nice to the assistants, but you should also be nice to the assistants because they are the ones who actually run everything and are the gatekeepers for their bosses. And if you're mean to them, they can find ways to maybe lose that email. But if you're nice to them, or maybe even go out of your way to be nice to them, then the opposite is true, and you can get a lot of help. And as you and I both know, assistants do not stay assistants, and they will be the people you will be begging a job from in 5 or 10 years.
Very true. Zack, your Twitter feed is packed full of supportive advice for writers. Why? You had to go through it. Shouldn't everybody else just figure it out?
Well, when I was a young writer coming up in the late 90s and early 2000s, practically the only resource for screenwriters or wannabe screenwriters on the internet was Elliot and Rossio's Word Player website.
Yes.
If you remember that. And
yes.
it was and remains a great resource, but it was the only thing out there. So as part of the trying to pay it forward a little bit, I like to share some of my own, kind of tricks and tips of the trade just to see if they're helpful for other people. And I try not to be prescriptive with them. I try and treat it as, hey, these are some things that work for me. Maybe they will work for you when thinking about plot, when thinking about character, when thinking about putting together an action scene. But I will also freely admit that it's a combination of that. And it's also a lot of times when I'm talking about story issues, on Twitter, it's because I'm trying to work one out myself in a script that I'm working on, and I find that
Oh,
it helps when I articulate my thoughts and try and find principles behind them. So there's a little bit of a selfish purpose in with the selfless one, but I hope that people find it useful and that I can pay it forward a
yes.
little bit because I was lucky enough to have more experienced writers mentoring me as I came up.
I love your Twitter handle. Can you let us know what it is?
My Twitter handle is Muzak, which is a pun. It is Musezack. It's a pun on my name and the company that used to pipe elevator music into the elevators in grocery stores of the world. It's a little bit self-deprecatory, and it goes all the way back to the name of a column I had in my high school newspaper. 30 something years ago.
That is adorable. You went from a collaborative writer's room, where everybody's throwing out ideas and you build from those ideas, to all of a sudden in 2011, you penned Thor and X-Men with Ashley. What was the transition like? Ashley being Ashley Edwards Miller.
Yeah, Ashley Edward Miller was my writing partner from the late 1990s to 2015. We had always wanted to be feature writers as well as TV writers. We had a little bit of success with Agent Cody Banks in the early 2000s, and then we had sold a fun script to Disney. But it wasn't until we got the assignment to do Thor at Marvel that things really took off. And for a while we were doing both simultaneously. We were staffing on Sarah Connor towards the end of the second season while we were writing Thor. And it was another 2 years before that movie came out and really did wonders for our career. And then as we were wrapping up on Fringe, we got the X-Men First Class assignment, and we had to make a decision at that point. Do we go back and staff on season 3 of Fringe, or do we seize the bull by the horns and jump straight into feature writing? And we chose to jump into feature writing, and it worked out.
So did you, I mean, they're different. You're just in the room all day with your writing partner, or you're sitting at the table. Did you miss all the voices coming in with the ideas? Did you just were like, I'm fine. We're good with this. Let's just
I would have a hard time writing a feature with like 7 or 8 other people breaking story the way that they're actually doing now for some movies. But I had a wonderful time on Sarah Connor Chronicles. That was, I enjoyed every day that I came into work on that show was, it was a fun, interesting, and stimulating day.
yeah.
And it is quite a readjustment to whether you're writing by yourself or writing with a writing partner, of having only your voice and not having that sounding board. And one thing that I've had to develop over the years is not a writing staff, but like a little group of trusted people to do first reads of script, because
Yes.
it's so, as it's so important to have sounding boards who you can trust on during the screenwriting process.
Can you expand on that? Before you hand in a script, get 5, 3, how many people you can to sit around a table and go through your script and kind of pitch ideas. People don't think that feature writers do that. but it's common, especially in comedy.
Yeah, I've been hired to be in rooms to what do they call them, like punch up rooms, um
Yes.
both for comedies and for I did a day on a leprechaun comedy that what's his name, Peter Dinklage, was attached to. And then I did a day on Transformers 4. I think I don't get invited back to those anymore because I'm less good at pitching out the pithy line of dialogue and more in okay, when you made this story choice, what was your thinking behind that? And I think that at that point in the development process, the train has kind of left the station, and it's not time for those questions. I probably shouldn't talk out of turn, but what the heck, I will. And famously, in one of the in one of the punch up rooms for Transformers, they had Jason Reitman, the very good writer director, Juno and Thank You for Smoking, and now the new Ghostbusters. And Jason Reitman apparently had a logic issue with something that happened in a Transformers movie, and it was either a writer or a producer who said, who said, Jason, your movies come out in December. That's when people care about plot logic. This movie comes out in July. No one cares.
And I'm sure Jason just cashed his check and smiled.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Although, it was, I ended up sitting in with at lunch that day with Jason Reitman on one side and Michael Bay on the other, and all they wanted to do was talk to each other because each of them was fascinated by what the other one did.
I wouldn't have moved from my spot in between them. I would have just taken forever to eat my lunch.
Oh yeah, I was fascinated the entire time because they both, I mean, whether you love them or hate them, they're both interesting filmmakers with really singular POVs, and it was fascinating listening to them share them with each other and asking each other questions.
Exactly. You get a movie made, mad respect. It's stuff out there.
Oh yeah, and how.
Starting out, what was your biggest misconception of what it meant to be a working writer?
I thought when I was starting out that it would be much more you sat down, you wrote something that you really loved and are passionate about and that got everyone excited. People would buy it and then go and make it.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't realize is, one, the absolute ratio of, things that, that if it's this giant upside down pyramid, right? And the base of the pyramid is all of the scripts out there. And then the smaller part is the scripts that get sold. And then the little teeny part of the pyramid at the point is the number that actually get made. But what I didn't realize is that even if your script doesn't get sold and doesn't get made, it can still be a calling card for all of the, hey, we liked your take on this. We have this property that we own. Can you come in and pitch on it? That a good script can get you, that it's much more, your script gets you other work than you will see that script made into a movie or a TV show just as you wrote it in your first draft.
Studios will have their own idea. They're not always waiting for writers to come in and pitch. They'll then call agents and say, we're interested in doing a movie about a genie. And then you'll just come up with a pitch and go in and pitch for it.
Absolutely. There are what's called open writing assignments, of course, which are exactly those things that actually get listed with agencies. And then there are the ones that you hear from the relationships that you build with different executives over the years. And then there are the ones that that you get specifically asked to come in and pitch on. The agencies and the management companies, okay, who do you think would be best for the movie about a genie? And they'll
Right.
they'll
That's
choose
very
from.
flattering. It must be hard to, you can't wait till you get to that point in your career, and then you hear that they want to pitch on a genie, and you're like, I hate genies. But do you think you'd still go in and do the pitch?
I have gone back and forth on that over the course of my career, and there have been things that I've pitched on that I wasn't tremendously excited about, that I let my agents and managers convince me into pitching on, because it would be a good payday. And, it's like, it's on the if they like the script, it's on the fast track, all the things that they tell you. At this point in my career, I'm trying to say no to those more, just not even because I think I'm so special, but more because if it's not something that I can be passionate about, or that I can find the passion in myself for, then it ain't going to be on the page.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I'm kind of wasting everyone's time. I've come to the realization about myself that I need to have, and maybe it is something, maybe I hear the pitch about the genie and it somehow intersects. Oh, I always wanted to do a movie set in the golden age of Baghdad, and this is the excuse to do it. I'm very good at like finding something that I like in something that it sounds unpromising from the get go. But if I can't find that thing that makes me excited about it, then I'm probably going to say no now, because again, I don't want to waste everyone's time.
Yes. Are you excited about anything that you're watching right now?
I need to watch more than I actually do. I try and keep up on things. I'm enjoying Peacemaker a lot. I'm enjoying this show, the Jason Katims show on Amazon, about the three autistic adults living in an apartment together. I believe it's called As We See It.
Yeah.
That's really terrific. It's very, it's funny and heartfelt in that Jason Katims way that he does incredibly well.
Yes, he does.
I'm enjoying that. And then this is going to sound bizarre, but my son is super into anime, and he's gotten me into this anime from the early 2000s called Monster that I'm just obsessed by. I think it's tremendous storytelling. It's a serial killer thriller that's set in 1990s post-unification Germany. Goes to like some incredibly dark places, but is ultimately very hopeful and humanistic at the same time. And with just great twists and turns.
So Monster, where can you find it?
It's actually on YouTube. There are both dubbed and subtitled versions of all of the episodes up on YouTube. I don't know how legal it is, but it's there now.
Cool. Zack Stentz, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us at the Writers Hangout. I just really enjoyed this. Before you go, would you like to do a pop quiz?
Yeah, pop quiz, hot shot. Absolutely. I will do a pop quiz.
Pop quiz.
Yeah.
We're going to have you take the pop quiz on something we call here at the Writers Hangout. You wrote the movie, but do you know the movie?
Oh.
And your topic is going to be Thor.
Okay. Let's go.
First one, we like to try to do a softball. First one, give you some confidence. What is Thor's real name?
Thor, Odin's son.
Yes. Thor was created by Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and who?
Was it Steve Ditko?
No. Initials LL.
LL.
Actually, he was the brother of Stan Lee.
Okay,
Larry
so something
Lieber.
Larry Lieber. Yeah, I was going to say Larry Lieber. Okay, now I got it. Thank you for the prompt.
How did the frost giants get into Odin's trophy room?
Basically, Loki let them in
Yes,
to foment trouble.
that Loki.
Always
How
causing
did
trouble, that one.
how did Thor order a new drink in the diner?
Um, I didn't even write this bit of. This is one of those things that happens when you get rewritten by everyone. Is you get people quoting bits of. It's like, I love it when you wrote that. It's like, yeah, that was another writer.
It's like wah wah
Um,
wah. I didn't
it-
write it.
yeah, he's like, I like it. Crash, throws it to the floor.
Yes,
Another.
yes, yes.
Yes, that was
You're
the late great Don Payne, really lovely gentleman. Unfortunately, passed away a few years ago from cancer,
Oh yeah.
and was responsible for a lot of the best comedic lines in Thor. And when I jokingly made that complaint, it's like, people are always quoting your lines to me, and he was like, yeah, I write for The Simpsons. Guess what happens? Every time a new episode comes out, it's the same thing. So we commiserated a little.
What is the name of Thor's mother?
Oh, it's like Frigga, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that
would have also accepted Rene Russo.
yeah, Rene Russo as Frigga. Yeah, I remember that was one of the names that Kenneth Branagh was like, can we change that? It's like, nope, sorry, it's canonical.
It is an unusual name, Frigga.
Yeah, it sounds like someone trying not to swear, doesn't it?
Yes. um, Next question is a true or false. Thor was not an original member of the Avengers in the comics.
I would say that is true.
False.
He was an original Avenger. Oh man,
Yes. Can you let's see if you can come back with some points. Can you
okay.
name the original members?
No, you're. This is where my Achilles heel comes in. I was not a big comic book guy when I got the Thor's when Ash and I got the Thor assignment. We kind of split it up in that. Ash was he was the guy with like 10,000 comic books in plastic bags in his garage, and I was the one who was taking college classes on Norse mythology and Viking history. So that was the part of the deal that I held up.
I'm gonna say this was a success.
Okay, yay!
Zach, you did a fabulous job on you wrote the movie, but you know the movie.
Oh, thank
There we go.
goodness.
Well, thank you again. I hope that you'll come back and join us on the Writers Hangout.
Oh,
And
I'd love to, and
again,
please
can
don't
you
be a
give us
stranger.
your yes? Can you give us your where we can find you on social media?
Yes, the Muzak handle is what I use, MUSEZACK, on both Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is for jokes and writing advice, and Instagram is for hiking with my dogs photos.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We'll talk again soon.
That's a wrap for the Writers Hangout. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, like, and thrive. Till we get to hang out again, keep writing. The world needs your stories. The Writers Hangout is sponsored by the Page International Screenwriting Awards. Executive producer, Kristin Overn. Producers, Terry Sampson and Sandy Adomaitis. Music by Ethan Stoller.